Hi everyone, my name is Tom Robinson. I'm a senior consultant at the Spivey Consulting Group. It's great to be here with you today to talk about work experience in the law school admissions process. Over the past 4 years, I worked as director of admissions at the JD office at Harvard Law School. And so I've seen a lot of students applying who have work experience, and I think that can be very helpful in the process. As you look at law schools across maybe the top 15 or 20 schools, you'll find that some law schools have as few as 50% of their incoming class have at least 1 year of work experience, and some have as high as 85%. At Harvard Law, we had around 80%, 82% having 1 year of work experience. So that's obviously something that really puts your thumb on the scale when you're able to say that you have work experience. So what is work experience? Work experience sounds like a simple thing to define, but many people think it's really just one thing. They think it's working as a paralegal in a law firm after undergraduate. In fact, it can be many, many more things, and I've never really seen, after doing hundreds and hundreds of interviews at Harvard Law, a student talk about their paralegal experience in a way that's much more compelling than working in a school or working in a corporate setting or doing volunteer work at a legal aid bureau. So it's very valid to do a paralegal role, but don't feel like you have to just because that's very relatable to the law school admissions process. When I was working at Harvard Law School, one of the students that applied and was eventually admitted came and spoke with me afterwards, and I got to know her throughout her 1L year. And one of the things she shared with me was that she really lingered on the decision to work in a school system. She was interested in education law, had done a lot of research on it, and felt like maybe she should, for the purpose of her law school admissions application, actually go into a big firm and be a paralegal for a year or two before applying to law school. And while that could be really helpful, looking back as almost going into her 2L year, last time I talked to her, she found the work that she did in a school system much more valuable to her experience and working with students and working with families and teachers and trying to understand the process of education law from multiple perspectives. And those are, I think, perspectives she wouldn't have gained as a paralegal. So really think through the opportunities that you have and whether or not being a legal assistant or working in a firm is really the right fit for you. Certainly law schools consider a graduate study, working in nonprofits, working in corporate settings, many other areas. Any type of work experience is really helpful in the process. What is not work experience? Many students will actually take a year off after completing their bachelor's to study for the LSAT. And while that's definitely understandable and it's a very difficult exam, writing and talking to an admissions office, doing your application and interviewing with an admissions office and saying that you took the year off to actually study for the LSAT is something that I think is really hard to make compelling. I've never really seen an interview, and I've seen many interviewers who took the year off or even 6 months or 8 months to study just for the LSAT. I've never really seen them talk about that in a way that was as compelling as saying, well, I studied for the LSAT and I did some volunteer work as a court-appointed advocate or at a legal aid bureau or at a school. So certainly, if you're going to take time off for study for the LSAT, don't let that become sort of a gap on your resume. Many admissions officers, maybe not all, would consider that sort of a gap and not really the best use of your time. So why do law schools like work experience? You may not realize, but often the admissions office in a law school is in tight communication with the career services office. And so there's a lot of dialogue back and forth about the quality of the incoming class, and certainly career services finds it really valuable when someone already has work experience on their resume. Not necessarily a legal work experience, but any type. And that can really help them get into their 1L summer role or their 2L summer role, and certainly have a resume that's already stronger before they even entered law school. As I've said before, you can also, through the admissions process, communicate the experiences that you've had, the challenges that you've faced, the people that you've worked with in difficult situations. And all of those comments that you can make throughout the application process really add a lot of strength to your application and show that you're more dynamic than maybe some of your peers who are applying. So that can really help you in the classroom. Faculty like it as well. Maybe 15 years ago at Harvard Law School, the class had maybe 40% having at least 1 year of work experience, and now that's really changed to 80% with one or more. And faculty over that time have really commented on the quality of discussion in the classroom being increased. Certainly people coming right out of undergraduate, the K to JD folks, can talk about their background in compelling ways too, but the experience among faculty, admissions, and career folks is that those with work experience have a lot more sort of context around issues that they might engage with in the classroom. So what's the application benefit of having work experience? It's actually quite subjective. If you're someone who has work experience, but you had a semester that was weaker, or your LSAT is maybe at the 25th percentile, but below the median, or maybe you have a splitter situation where your GPA or LSAT falls below the 25th percentile. If you have a weakness on your application, having work experience can really help push you forward. When I was working at Harvard Law School, 20% of the class had come right directly out of undergraduate. And that means that those folks really have to talk about themselves in a way that's sort of meets a different standard in some ways. Those without work experience have to work a little bit harder to convey their strengths. Those with work experience, if they have an area of weakness, have a little bit of a benefit that can kind of push them over the line. Selective schools are looking at different levers that you can press in the process. Not everyone has to press every lever. Those levers could be work experience, great quantitative skills, great writing, great recommendations, a persuasive supplemental essay of some sort. All of these things can be levers that you push throughout the admissions process, and work experience is an additional one that some students simply haven't had time to do yet. Certainly when I was going through many applications at Harvard Law, when I was presented with files that were all similarly qualified, but I had to select a subset for interview, I would often use the resume as a way to sort of say, this person has really interesting experience at the Department of Justice, or this person has worked with the UN in Western Africa, and someone's done a Peace Corps experience. And so all of those types of opportunities really made someone's resume pop and added to the level of discussion that I think would actually occur in an interview and potentially in a classroom as well. And as I mentioned before, help that student in the career process too. For those of you who are coming right out of an undergraduate program in the next couple of years, and you're probably trying to decide whether or not you should get work experience or apply directly from your senior year into a law program, that's a really difficult conversation to think through. I can tell you from the admissions perspective, having work experience will help you be more successful in the program, help you financially probably as well, but it will also help you in the admissions process as well. As I mentioned, within the top 15 or 20 schools, 50 to 85% of the classes have at least 1 year of work experience or better. And so what that means is you're coming in with a little bit of added benefit, a little bit of boost in terms of your admissions possibilities. So I think that's something that's very important in that process as well. If you found this video helpful, please click like below. If you're interested in other videos, you can make a comment, and always follow us on our YouTube channel as well, as we'll be posting more videos throughout the next few months. If you have any questions, email us at info@spiveyconsulting.com. You can always find out more information through our blog on spiveyconsulting.com as well. Thanks for watching and have a great day.